Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, Shaheen Mazloom, and we are here with a very special guest today, the world-renowned business and life strategist, best-selling author, transformation expert, and aviation enthusiast, a mentor and a friend, Gary Coxe. How you doing today, Gary?
Shaheen, I'm doing well, man. Good to see you. How are you today, bro?
I can't complain. Excited to chat with you, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been too long, man. What's up with that? Yeah, last time was when we were in the jet to the Bahamas, right?
Absolutely. So Gary, for those people out there that don't know who you are, give us a quick rundown of your expertise and what your business and what you do.
Yeah, basically, I kind of go in as a consultant with companies and corporations, and I'm able to help them find ways that they can make some major transformations in their operation systems, in their income, in their cash flow. And I also do that individually for people who have, maybe things stuck in their head, huge mental blocks, mental trauma. I did about 3-year run on Dr. Phil Shows the Doctors, where I take people who have got major things stuck in their past that keeps them from moving forward so they can get more results.
Right. Very cool. So you've actually worked, you've worked with a lot of big, celebrity, A-list celebrity business owners. Give us kind of like a quick, what is it like working with those types of people?
It's just like anybody else. If you know somebody's a celebrity, if you're not careful, you'll magnify what they do, whether it's good or bad. So I go into it knowing that, look, everybody's human. We have good days, bad days. Some are more fun than others. Some are not. Some are more serious. Some are more playful and, have a sense of humor, and some don't. So it is what it is, just like everybody else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been featured all over, Fox, CNN. I mean, I can't even count the amount of places you've been featured. So was there like a pivotal moment in your life or your business that made you the guy in your industry and what you do?
Yeah, I guess for me, it was media publicity. Got a ton. Like I said, Dr. Phil Show the Doctors, Inside Edition, Fox and Friends. When you start getting large media attention, it makes a difference, and you get a lot of people literally from all over the world, especially now with the internet and things like that. I mean, everybody can see you from no matter where you're at, which is awesome.
Right. Now I'm sure people are curious. I know I am. Like, what's the best way to get that attention? Like, how do you get attention from those big media conglomerates to be able to get out there in that world?
Yeah, and it can change your business. When I consult with somebody, I help them see first how huge it can change your business. I mean, we've all heard of Rich Man, Poor Man, the book, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. You know how he got big really fast? He got on Oprah. Once he got on Oprah, it was game over. Game over. Right. Spanx, the lady with Spanx, right?
Oh, yeah.
Billionaire.
Yeah, she's
game
amazing.
Over.
Yeah.
She got on Oprah. Game over. So it's not necessarily about reaching out to them. It's reaching out to them a lot. And it depends. Sometimes you do it through relationships. So I've been on a lot of shows through relationships. One producer knows another producer. Birds of a feather flock together. Others, like Dr. Phil Show the Doctors, we got access of the email from one of the producers, and I had one of my team members said, "Look, every 2 days, I want you to take this email and I want you to send it to this person every 2 days until something happens." And they bit after only about a week. And they had an issue with my credibility, thinking, can you do what you say you can do? And everything that I do with people and how fast I do it is all on the internet anyway. Why they didn't figure that out? But anyway, so yeah. And then once I did it, boom, it was like hook, line, and sinker. Dr. Phil says, okay, they want to sign a whole agreement for my own TV show. But, ultimately what it amounts to is you've got to be ridiculously
relentless,
tenacious. It took me 5 years to get on Inside Edition. I wore them out. And the reason most people are not that tenacious, they've never done this before to know the results. So if I said to you, look, hey, if you had this phone number or email or whatever for Oprah or whatever, and if you did this and you got on the show, you'd be a millionaire overnight, or you'd make millions more, and you knew that for a fact, would you just make 1 or 2 attempts? Heck no. You'd be just like, pound, make it happen. Yeah. So that's what I do. I make it happen.
100%. And nowadays, like, especially with the internet and all these data companies, you can pretty much get the contact information for anybody.
Absolutely. So remember, I'm going to give that a try. Yeah, everybody's available, which is awesome, especially now with social media, Instagram, what have you. In fact, I have a list of, oh my gosh, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 producers of just different TV shows on Instagram that I save. And what happens is I see all their feeds, and if I see there's something that I might make a fit for, as a consultant or whatever, reality show, whatever, I'll jump in on it. I just had somebody hit me 2 days ago and say, hey, I wanted you to consider about being a coach for this particular TV show. So, I mean, it reaches out so far. Not to mention, a lot of people say, well, TV is not like it used to be, 10 years ago. And they're right. But everything on TV goes on TV and the internet.
Yeah,
not everything on the internet goes on TV. So that's where you get a double whammy spread, if you will.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I'm going to have to give that a try. I've been thinking about recently, I want to get on, Good Morning America.
Sure.
Right? So I'm going to find an email. I'm going to blow them up. And, if they get mad at me, I'm going to just say, hey, Gary told me to,
Well, when
I think that's great.
I did Jimmy Kimmel. There was one I tried to get on. I forgot which show it was. It was an NBC
You were on
show.
Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
Cool.
I forgot what the other guy, not Jimmy. Who's the other guy? The other late guy. Really funny fellow. I don't know. But anyway, so I tried to get on that show, and I call them so much. Security from NBC called me up and said, dude, what is the deal? So, I mean, you got to keep in mind, right? If you're a producer for a TV show, when you send information to them, you and 50 million other people are doing the exact same thing. So I don't just email. I call. I get their friend. I find out who their friends are. You got to stand out. I mean, you have to dig very, very deep. So there's the more proactive way to do it. There's a softer way to do it. It just depends on, who you're trying to work with and also what your subject is. So I changed my angle. Angles are very important. Producers are looking for, number one, if they're TV, they're looking for an angle, and they're looking to make sure, are you going to sit there and have a story that people are not going to switch and use the remote? So then, with that being said, you have to communicate your message, not about you, but about what the listener is going to observe and watch when and if they bring you on their show. That's the key. They don't care about what you do. They care about ratings. The only way to get ratings is to make sure people stay and watch their show.
Okay, so the most important thing is making sure you have a story, you have a track record, and whoever you're reaching out to, you understand what's going to be important to them. It's always ratings as far as TV, right?
Absolutely.
But every personality is different, right? Certain people are going to react to different methods of reaching out, or the more aggressive type or whatever. So very cool. Do your research and know who you're reaching out to, but be relentless. I like that. Very cool. So I know, in your earlier years in life, you had a tough go at it. Like at what point was the breaking point, right? So everybody has, tough things that have happened in their life and pain points. And eventually you get to like a breaking point where you're like, enough's enough, and you dig yourself out of it. What was that moment for you, and how did you, really transform your life?
Well, I guess you're referring to my crazy story, which I'll share. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, when I was 11, I started my first business. My second business at 15. Shortly after that, I was doing $100,000 a year as a teenager. So I was really crushing it. Got married. Then shortly after that, my wife and I, we have a baby. Then she tells me it's not mine. True story. Yeah. Then in the time frame of all this, my grandfather and stepfather died of cancer. My uncle's killed in a plane crash. My father was murdered. Unfortunately was born and raised in a cult. And once I left that, all your so-called friends and family will shun you for life. So now it's like, holy crap, all my entire belief system is shot. So a lot of it's progressive. You have to commit and decide that you want to get over this stuff. And there's reasons why some people don't. For some people, it's more important for them to feel significance, or they get a lot of attention being depressed from other people. So you have to decide to, thrive and survive. And I've been very successful early in my life. And I knew the only thing that happened that kept me from being more successful again was I was a victim of my circumstances. And and only I can change that. So, I still today, there's ripple effects, every day, from the things I've been through. But the key is I know how to reprogram and wire myself. And that's what I do for other people. So I sure as heck better be able to do it for myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was it was incredible when we met the first time. My fiance was going through something tough,
Yeah,
and just that conversation that you guys had and teaching her how to, manage those emotions. And what was it, like the relative think, when you think of this, think of something positive. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's really helped her tremendously, really deal with that pain and
sure.
that trauma. So
Well,
it's incredible what you do, man.
I think why this stuff is so important, especially for guys. Guys don't like to, chat about their emotions. They don't like to be
Right,
vulnerable about things like this. And that's why we have, in fact, for the month of May of every year is Mental Health Awareness Month. And
right,
the challenge is if you're not willing to share and be vulnerable about your emotions and feelings and have not found somebody to do that with, you're going to probably have some unhealthy behaviors, and those behaviors are not going to work for you. And what like you talk about flying the airplane and stuff like that. If you have drag, or like, for example, if, let's say we came from the Bahamas in the jet and we want to go to, say, New York or where you're at, right? We land and it's
right,
all starting to snow. And then now we start getting some ice on the wing. That ice can be literally as thick as a grain of sand. That's it, right? What's going to happen now is when you take off, you can use 100% of your power, but you're going to do 50% less of your speed. And if you're not careful, you won't even have enough power at 100% and you'll crash. So ultimately, what I'm
wow,
saying is that's drag. And when you have drag, that air does not flow effectively over your wings. So when we have emotional drag, what happens is we are not able to move as fast as we'd like to and accomplish as much with ease or easier. We'll feel like we're pushing a parked car. We'll be active, but
right.
we're not active accomplishing anything.
Right, right. Now, so when you're dealing with these big businesses and helping them scale, and is it a lot to do? Like, do you start with the emotional piece of it? Like, are you focusing a lot more on that, or is it the ins and outs of the business and how to scale it, or their pain points, or does it just depend on the
No,
business?
that's a great question, because I want to find out what's their goal, right? Now
Right,
they might have a, like, for some, most companies, obviously, we have specific goals. But
right,
every time you have a goal, especially in your business, you need to ask yourself the question. This is one of the questions I ask: what is the price that you're willing to pay? So are you willing to be away from your family more, if that's what it takes? I don't know. It depends on the business, right? Are
right,
you willing to have and deal with more frustration because you're going to have to hire more and fire more? You're going to have to do things that you and your team are not, used to learning. These are
right,
all factors that need to be involved. And if you're not mentally ready or want to do that, then maybe you want to adjust your goals. Maybe instead of making it this big in this short a time, we can make it this big, but maybe take a little bit longer to attain it. So I feel that if
right.
we learn how to enjoy the journey a little better, then
Yeah,
we can realize it's all part of a journey. I mean, and so when you die, do you really need 10 million, or is it 14 million, or 30 million, or 89 million, or 112 million, or 3 billion?
right,
So it all becomes relative. But yes, it's just no different than, if I say, hey, I want to do something active, and you say, Gary, let's run a marathon. Well, if
right,
you're a marathon runner and you say, okay, you want to join me sometime, say, I'll join you this weekend. Well, you know in your head that I'm not going to finish the marathon if I've never run a marathon and if I'm not fit. You know that. So you're going to
right.
say, Gary, okay, you're not going to be able to do this one, but there's one in 6 months. Let me help you mentally get ready and physically get ready, and we can make that happen. So because of the
Right.
knowledge that you have that I don't have, I'm going to have to listen to you. And if I don't, there's going to be a price to pay.
Makes sense. Okay. So if it's important to know what you're willing to do and the price you're willing to pay to get to those
Sure.
goals.
I just had a
Yeah,
gentleman
I
that I
definitely
worked
get
with
that.
in their company, oh, I don't know, years ago, and he just reached out. So my associate is going to ask them, what's your objective? What do you really want to accomplish? And once we figure
Right.
out what that objective is, let's find out if we get the right mindset to make that happen. And if not, are you willing to make that adjustment?
Right. Right. Okay. Very cool. So, when it comes to like dreaming big versus taking big action towards those big goals, those big dreams,
Yeah.
is the think big more important than the action, or do they get kind of go hand in hand? Like, what would you say is the most important thing with those big thinkers that are really trying to go to billionaire status? They're trying to go balls to the wall, whatever it takes.
Right.
Is it the action? Is it the emotion? Or is it, kind of a combination that really takes it to the next level?
Well, it's a combination, but obviously, ultimately, if there's no action, nothing happens.
Right.
So what I try to get people to do, if it takes you, I don't know, 100 action steps to get to point B, and it takes you 6 months, could you do those 100 action steps in 3 months? Is it possible?
Right.
If the right mindset's there, the attitude of the team is there, it's possible. But yeah, action is the ultimate. There's no question about it. Action is the ultimate. So yeah, that involves emotions. That involves, do you have a lot of emotional drag in your company, on your wings,
Right.
that's going to slow you down from attaining that? So
that emotional, I love that analogy.
Oh yeah,
I love that
company's
analogy
only
of
as good
emotional
as
drag.
those at the top. Bottom line.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
the company is only going to allow and do what they allow the worst person in the company to do. There's a level. And a lot of times for some people, they may not have or they may have a challenge, let's say, with conflict. And if you have a challenge with conflict and you're not willing to fire or get rid of people who are, C performers, and those are things that have to be dealt with. I mean, sometimes
100%.
there's companies that come to me and they want to grow, and it's a big family company, and they all don't friggin' respect or get along. They're gonna have a really rough time.
Hey, you got to get rid of this. I mean, that was my toughest thing early on in business, was not firing when I needed to, and that caused a lot of problems, and really was the biggest reason why we couldn't grow in the earlier years.
Yep.
I totally get that. Now, as far as training our mind, you talk about how we can really train our mind and get out of, these bad habits or these bad ways of thinking. What would you say is a good strategy in order to be able to train our mind to think differently, or take more action, or get rid of the emotional baggage, that emotional drag that some people are holding on to?
That's a loaded question, because a lot of it's going to depend on the individual. But with that being said, if you have what we would consider maybe a negative thought or even a positive thought, always remember where the thought becomes an emotion, right? So every emotion that you experience, pretty much, positive or negative, you're going to do one of two things. That's it. You're either going to ignore it or you're going to reward it. So then if you have a specific thought that creates a negative emotion and it's not in harmony with your goal, if you reward that negative emotion, it's going to take you longer to get to that goal, if you're even going to get there. So unfortunately, as humans, we are programmed to be a slave to our feelings. This is why when we feel something, we feel uncomfortable ignoring it. We reward it, because if we ignore it, we feel that we're doing something opposite of how we feel, which then connects us to thinking, well, maybe we're lying or we're not authentic because we're doing something different in how we feel. We feel uncomfortable with that. Well, if you're not used to managing that and handling that, then the next thing to do is to reward the negative feeling and emotion, and then you never make a change. So you have to have a clear process when negative emotions come about. And unfortunately for a lot of people, because they have not learned how to do that, that's where, man, I cannot tell you how many people I know that because they don't know how to manage this, they're on, Prozac or Xanax or alcohol or weed or whatever. And it's crazy. I like to get high off my own supply. I want to be able to figure out, how do I control this consistently?
Yeah. Now, when you say we reward that negative thought or emotion, what? Give me an example of that. Like, do you mean like eating ice cream when we're feeling sad, or like
that could be it? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure, that's one way. It could be, let's say that you. I'll give a person as an example, as in sales. Somebody tries to make a sale. They get on the phone. Somebody hangs up on them, and cusses them out or whatever. We talk about being tenacious, right? The producer says, "Who do you think?" and hangs up. Well, if we're not careful, we will now create. This is quite interesting about how the brain validates things. Maybe, if you and I tell somebody you got to be really tenacious, and then this person says, "Okay, I'm going to try to be tenacious with this. Be more proactive." And then sometimes you don't want to be, but let's say in this case we do. And then a friend of yours says, "Man, you're going to be too proactive. People are going to hang up on you." So what happens now is we become proactive, and then the person in this case happens to hang up on us. And then your brain, if you're not careful, will validate what they said was right, because your brain will always validate all your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. So now how do you reward that validation? You're no longer proactive on the next call and the next call and the next
Right.
call. You just blew it.
Right. Now, how do we, so instead of rewarding that, that emotion or that feeling, how do we then,
Pick up the phone right away and make the next call.
so just, you're saying just keep it moving. Don't worry
Yeah, you
about
can't
it. And
reward
just,
it. So
yeah.
rewarding it in this case would say, okay, I got to take a breather here. I
Right.
can't handle this rejection. It's painful, whatever.
Right.
Who are they to talk to me like that? That stuff, the moment you start doing that, you've now rewarded the behavior. You've made it that much harder, added more
Yeah.
drag on your wings to get to the
Yeah.
next phone call and make the next contact happen.
That makes total sense.
It's a mind
Absolutely.
game, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's very it's crazy how the mind works and how we
It
can
is.
really train and program ourselves to do better, be better.
Oh,
It really,
absolutely.
I mean, it's just like working out, right? If you hit the gym every single day, you're going to end up in shape. Just like
Yeah.
if you're training your mind every single day, you're going to end up with a
And if
better,
you're
clear
rewarding your
thought process.
behavior with the alcohol and the drugs and so forth, you're not
Right.
training your mind. You're
No,
not
not at
doing
all.
it
You're
whatsoever.
ruining it.
And then
Absolutely.
also,
Absolutely.
in business, I mean, let's face it, right? How much stress and anxiety do we have? It's crazy. And that's
Yeah.
another thing. If we don't know how to manage things like that, then, you compromise your immune system. You're not
Yeah.
healthy. You reach out, rudely to other people. I mean, it just goes on and on. That's why I think it's so
Yeah.
important to learn how to play games with your mind instead of it playing games with you. You perform better.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So of of the different people that you've worked with in the past, like those A-list celebrities, right? Like you're friends with the guy who owns sandals, right? Like, I mean, when you're dealing with people um like that, are you trying to get as much information? Like I've always been told, you want to try and soak in as much as you can from every client that's at that heightened level of success.
Uh,
How do you deal with that when they're your client, you're supposed to be helping them? Like, is it just kind of a natural thing that happens where you're picking up information from them and how they do things, or how do you kind of go into that where
yeah, I mean,
you're gaining from them?
I think the problem that a lot of business people have is because somebody is wealthier than they are or doing more numbers than they must know something that they don't know. And that's not
Hmm.
necessarily true. For
Right.
example, you look at somebody like Warren Buffett, right?
Right.
Great guy. But most people don't know he's had a mistress for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. My point here is there's some people who are so successful, they ignore their family. They don't give a crap about their family. And that's why they put in so much work. And because they put in so much work
Right.
and they have a different value on money than they do their family, than maybe you do, they're going to make more.
Right.
So these are things that we have to think about. So
Right.
where I'm going is I've done over 3,000 speaking engagements, which means I've met well
Wow.
over 3,000 CEOs and managers and so on.
Right.
Yeah, they may be bringing me in for me to help them, but hey, I'm listening. I'm learning from them too. I mean, look at Mattel that makes the little cars, right? When Mattel
Right.
makes a new car or a toy, whose advice do they seek? They get a focus room with little 5-year-olds. Five year
Right.
olds. They're a lot smarter than a 5-year old, but they don't have the viewpoint because they forgot the viewpoint of what it was to be 5 years old. So they get a focus group of little 5-year olds, and the 5-year old says, this sucks. Oh, I like this. And they all say, oh, I like this. That's the toy we're going to lean on. What do you like about it? Blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. So that's why I want to learn from everybody. I don't care if somebody makes less than me, more than me. And to be frank with you, I do not have a goal to be a billionaire. I don't want to be a billionaire. I've been around
Right.
too many billionaires to know I don't want, and I'm not willing to pay the price. Period.
Okay. Interesting. So now, as far as paying the price to get to that heightened level of success, well, I mean, there's different variations of success, right? Success in family, in marriage,
Sure,
and
sure.
in friendship, and there's so many different levels, right? But when you're talking about that monetary, that billionaire status,
Mm-hmm.
besides whatever it takes, what are the other things that that all those billionaires have in common to be able to get to that level of monetary success?
one thing they all have in common is they have an incredibly high tolerance to emotional pain and problems.
Right.
So the problems that I get to observe that some of my billionaire clients have, the average entrepreneur would throw in the towel. Some would commit suicide. I'm not kidding.
Yep.
So the way to get to that level, if that's a desire for somebody, is if you have a desire to really, really get to a massive level, you've got to learn to handle the crap you're experiencing now.
Right.
And if you can't do that, it's going to be 10 times worse when you have more. And people that have money understand that. They think you're going to have less problems and more money. It's the other way around. You have more problems and more money. The other thing is
more money, more problems.
Team.
Oh yeah, more money, more problems is so true. What was it? I think it was a Biggie song, but it is. I didn't believe that until I actually started making real money. Like when I was younger, I started a business when I was a kid.
Right.
I didn't make six figures as a teenager, but when I started making six figures and then seven figures, and you realize that your problems just get bigger and bigger and bigger the more you make. It's like it blows my mind sometimes when I'm like, this happened, but at least for me, like it's gotten easier to deal with the bigger problems the more they come.
That.
Yeah.
So the way they circumnavigate that is then as they're growing, they bring in incredibly good people who do not need an adult babysitter. So that's the next thing that you do. And also they shave some of the profits off to bring somebody else in. For example, I had this belief for years. I didn't want a partner until I found somebody that proved themselves with something else that we were doing together. And then that person made a proposal to me, and I jumped on it, and I have like virtually zero headaches. So now I've learned, well, I've known this before, but I haven't looked, I should say, for the right people. So now what I do is I look for people that I don't have to babysit. When I tell them something once, it's done. And then if I have a track record, because I'm in no rush, if I have a nice track record with that person, somewhere, somehow, we're going to come up with an opportunity together where I just say, here's some money, do your thing, and I want to walk away. Just report to me. But I've got to have a track record to know that I have that track record where I haven't been waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning wondering, did they follow up and do that? If that starts happening in my mind, that's not the person for me. So now, if I'm willing to get into another company and shave off some of the profits by giving it to somebody else, something of something is better than something of nothing. So now if I can have something of something, increase my income, and give it to somebody who takes all the headache, but they love it, it's a game changer. It's a win. It's a win-win. Huge win-win.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I'm very fortunate.
Always be looking for people like that. Always be looking for people like that.
And when you get them, hold on tight.
Absolutely. We've had. I take care of them very well. Absolutely.
Yeah. Same. Like we have a lot of great. Right now, our team is just really strong. We got a lot of really hardworking people on the team, and it's helping us. Oh, big difference, man! Like they train every day. They work hard. We're constantly in communication. They get stuff done. I mean, it's just so much. It's so much easier throughout the day when you have people that are like-minded. Almost an extension of yourself. And it's for a while I was starting to think, it doesn't exist. It's not in the cards. It's not going to happen.
It's easy to think that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. So for those that are maybe new to business, or maybe they're planning on starting a business, what would you say what would be the biggest piece of advice you could give for those people that are just starting out or thinking of starting a business?
Same advice I'd give anybody who's starting anything new. I don't care what it is. Get and be consulted and coached and hang around people that are already there, so they can, when you have crap happen, they can look at you and say, hey, I got this. I understand. I know where you're coming from. Here's what happened to me. You got this. When you're doing this alone, it's no fun. But when you know, then somebody says to you, this is normal. It's going to be okay. I know it's painful right now, but let's go ahead and do this, this, and this. there's nothing that compares to that. I mean, if you do this route alone, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's the marathon we talked about, or
Right.
it could be a relationship, anything. You have to be around the right people, because you hear it all the time, right? Your net worth is your network. So I
Oh
make
yeah.
sure I network with the right people.
Right. Now, when you're saying, a coach or mentor or something like that, does it have to be somebody that you know personally? Can it be somebody on the internet, somebody that's doing webinars, somebody that's doing? I mean, me personally, I think it could be anybody. I mean, for
Yeah,
example,
I
like
mean,
the most I've learned through business and in sales over the last 15 years has been from people like you and Paul and Grant Cardone. Like,
sure,
though you three together has, I mean, honestly, really helped me grow my business
that's
to
awesome,
scales I
man.
never thought was possible, five,
That's
6 years ago.
cool.
And I think a lot of people get hung up on well, I don't know any people that have done this type of business, or I don't know any people that are at the level of success that I want to be at. And so do you agree? Like, it could just literally be anybody online or anybody that's really doing it.
Yes, 100%. And then additional to that, I think people need to belong to some kind of a mastermind, or at least some group that they have access to get feedback. So
Yeah.
how many of us have never gone on YouTube? We all go on YouTube. We all do
Right.
research. I literally last week just bought, I think, 18 books. So I got 18 books this stack, this high to read.
Wow.
All right. So you've got to constantly keep feeding your mind. If you
Yeah.
have a person that you follow and you listen to, and when you listen to them, you feel jacked. Not that you need to listen to them to feel jacked, because if you're not a
Right.
self-starter, you don't probably need to be an entrepreneur. But
Right.
if you have people that interject a belief in you, or take your belief and strengthen it, I mean, just this conversation with me and you, when I'm done, just having a conversation with you
E-
has jacked my
Exactly.
mental
A
capacity up, right?
100%. A hundred
So
percent.
we
I'm
have to
jacked
be
up as it
proactive
is.
to do this stuff. It's like when
Yeah.
you and I are on the jet together. I mean, we still talk about that, and it's been, I don't know, a year or so. So when you
Yeah.
do and have experiences like that, it solidifies that this is possible when
Oh yeah.
things don't go your way.
Yeah. 100%. Um, it's funny you talk about this conversation. Like, whenever, like, I love talking about business and entrepreneurship and
Sure.
growth and mindset. Like, I literally ended up cutting everybody out of my life one day that doesn't enjoy having those conversations.
100%. I
And
totally get it.
that was about, I don't know, probably about a year ago. I mean, I'd done it gradually over the years,
Sure.
but a year ago, I was like, I'm done. If I like, cause it jacks me up, man. Like, I
Sure.
love talking about this stuff. I'm passionate about what I do and what, the business owners that we help. And, it's so true and important. You got to surround yourself with the right people. Network, net worth, hand in hand by far.
And
Um, so
it's like protecting your mind.
yeah.
You have to value it. You have to value who you hang around with.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I believe there's times you got to change some of your friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely, no doubt.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, the more alcohol you ingest into your body, the worse your liver's going to do, your heart's going to do. It just like with what you're hearing. If all you're
Sure,
hearing is bad talking about other people and about things that don't have any value or
right,
aren't important, whatever it is, like, you're just destroying your mind. You're poisoning
hundred
your
percent.
mind with all that stuff. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's so true. And I feel like at some point, everybody realizes that, but the sooner you realize that, I think the better.
100%. And I think people need to, once they realize it, they got to move on it. They got to.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, like decades ago, when I made a decision to make a list of who I'm going to get rid of as friends, and I did it.
Yep. 100%. You don't have to make a kill list, but
Right,
just cut them out.
exactly. But you got to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
when you have that, what's so cool is then you and your friends are protective for each other, and you make sure that you all bring in the right people into your loop or your camp, because you're
Right.
protecting each other, because you all have the same mindset and the same goals at hand, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I've said it before. I mean, my best friend is my fiance because she gets me. She
Yeah,
enjoys the same
that's
conversations. We're talking
awesome.
about business. She has
Right?
a couple businesses herself, and like, it's it's hard to find. But there's a lot of people out there that are like that, and you don't need to. I keep trying to explain to her she doesn't need to waste her time with people that aren't on that same
100%.
grind and that mindset and having those conversations. It's great to have 10,000 friends, but hey, if you got five that you really enjoy
Five
being
good
around that
friends.
make you feel good, I mean, that's all anybody needs. So last but not least, Gary, explain to everybody out there what your offer is. You were talking about a mastermind class.
We have a couple programs. One of the programs I have is Move Toward Emotional Freedom. It's Move Toward Emotional Freedom Challenge.com to show people how to create more emotional freedom in their life. And
Great.
when you create more emotional freedom in your life, you remove some of that drag, if not all of that drag. And you definitely operate at a different level. And of course, they want to go to my website, GaryCoxe.com. They can join me on some of my masterminds. Gary Coxe, that's Coxe. I got an E at the end of my name. Grandfather wanted to be different. GaryCoxe.com.
Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate it. And it's in the description for those of you that are following us on YouTube or wherever you're listening. It's in the description. So you'll be able to click that link and follow Gary and enjoy those masterminds. I've done a mastermind with him, and I'm telling you, it has, I mean, it helped me become a #1 best-selling author. It's helped me grow my business. I don't even know how many times over.
That's awesome.
The just like you were talking about earlier with surrounding yourself and listening to the right people that have
Right,
already
right.
done it, people that have been there.
Yep.
There's really nothing more important. I mean, like I said, I always tell people, I really took things seriously when it came to that, about a year and a half ago. And, we've 25X'd in the last 8 months.
Crazy,
It's
huh?
like, it's
Wow.
things I always knew, but, you until you take that full action and you go all in on it, like
100%
you're not
committed.
really going to see it.
Yep. No, that's it. And it's so
Absolutely.
exciting to watch your growth as you keep doing this stuff. It's really cool. So I know you're not going to stop. So keep it up.
Nah, definitely. All the way. So I appreciate you. Thank you for hopping on and talking with us today. And I can't wait to do it again soon and
We'll do it
see
too.
where
And
we're both at. Yeah, absolutely.
we'll light
Thanks,
that jet
brother.
up, maybe.